Hello everyone. I am very excited to kind of do just some reveals, a little witchy haul goodness for you today. It's really, really warm here in New Hampshire and very gray and rainy in my neck of the woods, so it's kind of a perfect day just to kind of get together, share some tea or coffee, and just talk some witchy goodies. Before I get started, I just want to show you guys this pendant. The witch that I purchase a lot of my pendants from, and I know a lot of you have asked, is Moon Witchery on Instagram. That's her profile. And then her store shop is, I believe it's Stones and Bones, but I will post a link for you in the description box for this video. This particular piece is Rainbow Moonstone and Smoky Quartz, and it's wrapped in clay that she's actually hand-drawn with sigils and symbols. And she ethically sources everything that she uses. She does use stones and bones in her jewelry. Everything is ethically sourced. Her elemental, she does like elemental globes, which I really, really love, but I really love all of her jewelry. Everything I've ever gotten from her is deeply intentional, lovingly crafted, very reasonably priced for what you're getting, because she charges everything under the moonlight. She's very intentional with the herbs that she charges your jewelry with as well. And just really, really beautiful, beautiful artwork from her, and beautiful artistry in her jewelry, and a really deep connection with the elements and intentional creation with her stuff. So I want to just do a little shout out for her because I've been wearing her stuff a lot lately. Purchased my first piece from her. My friend bought one for me a couple years ago. I think now maybe 1 or 2 years ago, and just loved that piece. And then lately I've been accumulating a few more as I can here and there, and have really, really been enjoying wearing her jewelry. So I will again post the links below so you can check out her stuff. Her Instagram is beautiful, just so such a deep connection to elemental beings, to Mother Earth, and to the stone people. So it's definitely a joy as a fellow witch to follow her on Instagram for sure. So I just wanted to address that because I know some of you will end up asking me about this piece. This one is really, really special, and I dearly love it. So that's where this came from. That's the witch and the artist who creates them. She is amazing. Okay. So before I start this video too, it's been interesting. There's been, at least from my perspective, a lot of conversation in the community, the pagan online community, I guess we could say at large, because I think it's larger than just the tarot community, about, how do I want to say this? Physical collections and the purpose that they serve in our path, and also when we get out of balance with that. And I think it's a wonderful thing to discuss and address when there's an imbalance with anything. And it's also important to sit with and understand that we don't actually need our tools in our practice. They can bring a beautiful depth of grace and intention to our work, and really bring a lot of joy to us as pagan people, as those of us who identify with the witch's path or pagan path or Wiccan path, whatever it might be. And so it is something to sit with the balance of, for sure. But I did want to just address that I have been a witch for a long time, and I've been collecting for a long time. And so I certainly don't want any of you who watch this channel to feel like you're being pressured to purchase items for your witchy bag of goods, witchy bag of tools at all. And just also to understand that when we bring intention and balance to our path, there isn't anything wrong with enjoying the beautiful things that we might bring to our altar space or carry on us that help us to feel connected to our path, connected to elemental beings, connected to the divine, connected to the stone people. So it is definitely something that a balance is required in, and I think Kellyanne Maddox has some really great videos on that lately. And at the same time, it is important to understand that when it's intentional, and we're bringing awareness to our experience of working with items and collecting things like that, whether that be tarot decks or crystals or whatever it might be, various and sundry magical tools that are available to us. Bringing that intention is important, but also I think understanding that it is a collection. It is a collection. It's something that over the years you'll find you have really perhaps beautiful or impactful pieces, even though they might not have cost you any money, you know. Like one of my favorite stones on my altar is this stone that I found at the ocean once. I think this was from 2 years ago now, that I found walking on the beach, and this is one that's really beautiful for me for my practice. So I don't want any of you to feel any pressure to purchase because I am talking about decks on my channel in particular. It is something that gets a lot of requests and that I love to talk with you all about, you know, my experience working with decks, reviews of decks, so that if you're considering purchasing, you can see if it's something that's worth your investment. And at the same time also, I have been collecting for years, so there shouldn't, you know, you shouldn't feel any pressure to have a large deck collection just because I do or someone else that you follow on YouTube does or doesn't. Allow it to be intentional for you and to come back to what's serving your path and your purpose and your experience. And for someone like me who's a Taurus, I really do enjoy collecting decks, and I've recently given away a large part of my collection, but still I work with more decks than some people, you know, will feel that they need or want in their collection. And that's fine. For me, it's really, really enjoyable and powerful to have so many friends in the form of cards to work with. So I just wanted to address that before I started this video, because I am going to be talking about 3 or 4 decks today. And I don't want you, as someone watching this, to feel pressure to purchase. And I also don't want you to feel, if you're someone like me who likes to enjoy the beauty of working with more than one deck or more than one stone or crystal, that, you know, there's something less aware or spiritual about you. It's always comes back to that personal experience and personal intention and awareness. It really is something that it's so vitally important that we check in with ourselves about and don't feel pressure to conform or to have certain items. So, enough chatting about that over. What I wanted to talk about today is that I'm going to do a reveal and unboxing of the Fairy Forest Oracle with you guys. I know that Avalon Spiritual Odyssey and I think Le Fée Verte, quite a few other YouTube lovely, wonderful people have done reveals of this deck, but I haven't, and I did promise that I would do a reveal when I got this deck. So we are going to do that together today. You can see I haven't opened it, it's still wrapped in plastic. The other few decks that I want to talk about today are the Duality Oracle deck, which you can purchase on Etsy, and also the Crystal Mandala Oracle by Alana Fairchild. Can you see that? A little bit there. So this, I've already opened these two, but I do want to show them to you in case you're considering purchasing them for your collection. You could kind of consider it a mini review reveal kind of thing. I don't know if I'll do individual videos for all of these, but as far as reviews go, but this will at least give you my first impressions. So, who do we want to start with? Let's start with the Duality deck. So, this deck was a gift, and so is the Fairy Forest, from a really beautiful friend of mine. She knew that I'd been eyeing them for a while and that I really wanted to explore working with them, and so she surprised me with them as gifts. The Duality deck you can purchase on Etsy. I will post the link below in the description box. Excuse me, if you feel called to work with it. It's a very unique deck, and it features artwork, not at all a knockoff of Jasmine Beckett Griffith, but it's got that same like big eye, pretty much for the most part female perspective in the artwork. So it's one that I think, you know, you'll feel called to work with if you find that you work with the decks by Jasmine Beckett Griffith and Lucy Cavendish very well. So and I watched a review of tarot readings by Kate. I think she did a review on this deck, and it really, really called to me. So I am so thankful that I was gifted this deck, and also really, really, really loving working with this deck. So the deck is created by Tanya Bond, and she also did the guidebook as well, which I always love when we, you know, I think it's very unique when we get a deck that's been written by the artist who's created the artwork as well. And I think it really gives us a different lens to approach working with the deck with when we read the guidebook. The artist lives in Ireland, is my understanding. And so shipping, if you're going to be shipping international, will take a little bit longer, but I believe I received the deck within 2 weeks. It was actually very quickly. So I wasn't bothered at all by the shipping. It arrived in a very timely manner, boxed very well. And I did receive a free print, which is my understanding everyone who ends up getting the deck does. And this is the print of the angel that I received. She's lovely. The guidebook looks like this. So you can see that, let me compare for you guys. This is the Crystal Mandala Oracle box, and this is the guidebook. It's very thin, but it's nice and big. And I actually really like this for journaling because it's very easy to lay the book flat and be able to journal, you know, at a table really easily and very beautifully. So this I actually like. It's different, and I like it. Excuse me, sorry guys, getting over a little bit of a cold. The book itself, very soft as far as the soft cover aspect of it, so it is something that you want to protect and take care of. Like you can see even from leaving it out, I've got a little dog earring going on. But just look at these fish. Like something about this deck just really, really, really just called to me. You'll see that in the guidebook, you've got at least a paragraph of description with the accompanying color reproduction of the image on the card. And I found the introduction fascinating, and I'm just going to read it to you guys. Duality Deck is designed to bring peace into your thoughts and feelings when it comes to areas of your life that you are currently not so happy about. It is called Duality to reflect the dual way of looking at our life and events in it. There is a straightforward, logical way, where all we can see are linear events, who did what and why this and that happened. And yet there's another way of looking at things, the not-so-straightforward way, where causes and effects as well as answers are found mostly within oneself. The meanings of the cards resonate with the second way, and whilst you are invited to bring to the table the upsets and issues of everyday life, you are also presented with a suggestion to look at them differently through the meanings of the cards that you pick. So this kind of synopsis of the purpose of the guidebook, working with the deck, I think is right on. And I also have found that it's very easy with this deck to really get into some serious journaling, especially when you check in with the guidebook meaning. It does encourage you to kind of ask yourself some questions and sit with how you can kind of shift your perception of a situation. So I have really enjoyed working with the guidebook with this deck, and I got this deck last week, I think, and I've just been using it for myself and really, really enjoying using it for myself. And at this time, I don't feel that I'll be reading with 4 others with it. It will be a personal deck for some time for me. So it comes in this beautiful bag with the koi fish on the front, and it's this gorgeous color. It's very earthy, and I really love that it comes with a bag that you can house it into. Excuse me. So this is the backing. Again, we have the koi fish. They're so beautiful. And this beautiful kind of neutral background, not dissimilar to Audrey Kawasaki's art. So I love, and I do not mean that as in she's copying this at all, because I don't have that feeling, but just it kind of gives me that wood grain feeling that you get in Kawasaki's artwork a lot. There are no borders, which is my favorite thing. when a deck does not have borders now, because it means I don't have to trim it. So some of you who follow me on Instagram know that I'm obsessed with trimming all the borders off of my decks right now. The same friend who gifted me this deck, she really helped me to take the plunge and start trying to trim my decks, and I love the way it looks. I connect with them so much more when I don't have the borders in the way. So I don't have to trim this deck, which I'm very excited about. The cardstock, it's a self-produced deck, so it's not as sturdy as, say, let me show you, like the Thoth Tarot's cardstock. It's not that sturdy, but it's a deck where if you take care of your deck, you can see how easily it bends. If you take care of your deck, you'll be fine. You'll be just fine. It is self-produced, so there are limitations to the budget aspect, which, many of us who collect understand. So there's a keyword at the bottom. I love this image. I love this deck so much. And I really think that she chose the keywords like this is habit very wisely. Again, it encourages you to journal or to meditate with even just the keyword chosen. And I do believe in the review by Tarot Readings by Kate, she talks about that where we're seeing the red circle on the face are tapping spaces for EFT. So I think that's interesting. I haven't seen it mentioned in the guidebook yet, but she did mention that in her review, which I found fascinating. So the colors are bright. Maybe bright's not the right word. They're muted, but there's an intensity to the use of color that I really enjoy. And most of the girls you'll see, they're either with a spirit animal or there's some symbolism being used here to assist us in being prompted to check in with our intuition. Like, here's the mirror. Here's honesty with transparent flowers. Oh, I love this card, Fear Free. In this image, with the bee movement, you'll know how much bees are intrinsic to my marriage of the sacred and profane on my path. And I love this image. So try to turn this so you can see the colors a little bit better. There's unity with a spider web. So you can see that although we don't have a lot going on besides a young girl's face, her use of color and these very powerful symbols that are quite simple at the same time really help you to connect in with the message that's being shared with you. Just a card for emotions. Oh, and this one with the owl and wisdom, you can see she's got the tree with roots at the third eye as well. Let's see, I just dropped them. I don't want to show you everything so that you have some surprises. Oh, look at this one, the others. That is a fascinating image. And then this one with the past, I really, really like this and what it kind of is calling you to sit with for yourself. And then patterns, and I'll show you one more. This one, magic, with crow and raven, or raven, however you want to look at that. So the deck is not a huge deck. I think there's 36 cards, but let me double check for you guys. I'm sorry, there's 26 cards. So it is not a huge deck, but it doesn't need to be. I think that the cards were created with great intention, and I am really enjoying spending time with this deck. This year, the majority of the decks that I'm going to invest in are independent and small, as far as, small releases of the decks. I'm really, really feeling called to explore that aspect of especially Oracle decks, as opposed to a huge focus on mass-produced decks. There is something really beautiful about intentional creation, and when we have the artist or creator's voice unedited, it's really powerful. So I am loving the Duality deck, It's just such a joy to work with. It doesn't kick you in the ass, but it does ask you to really take a look at yourself. So that one is really special, and I'm loving working with that one. Okay. Let's talk about the Crystal Mandala Oracle. And I I accidentally dropped these on the way up the stairs to record this, so some of the card images might be all over the place. So I've saw some reviews for this, and I know that some people really aren't impressed with this deck as much as they have been with Alana Fairchild's other decks. But I did want to just say that I don't really feel like she's going, like Alana is going in the direction of, let's say, Doreen Virtue or something that's really Christian Pantheon focused. I think Alana really is very open to all mythology and all pantheons in the mythological story, really as reflections of the Divine One. And so I have not personally, and I know some people have, so I'm not at all naysaying people who've had this experience. But for me, I have not had the experience with this deck that she's really focusing on the more Christian aspect. I think what we're seeing is that she's calling in all of the pantheons as a way of healing and connecting with Great Spirit. And my understanding through reading her books, because many of you know that I am a big Alana Fairchild fan, and I have read her books, is really it's almost like the archangels, the angels who are entities, energies who existed before Christianity even came into being, but were very much adapted to Christianity, are being honored in their original divine essence. And it's also almost as if we start the expansion in this deck through the angels, then the ascended masters, and finally we are ready for the very kick-ass experience of working with goddess energy. So I did want to just kind of clarify that at least for me, in working with this deck, it has not felt overtly Christian or something that I couldn't still work with on my path as a pagan, so, and as a witch. So I did just want to kind of address that, because I know some people really have had that experience. So if you feel called to work with this deck, just know that there are some of us who are having an experience that is not focused on the Christian pantheon with this deck. And anything that gets us out of our comfort zone and that we have a visceral reaction with, sometimes exploring that can be really healthy for us too. So I know for myself the angel aspect is not something I feel very comfortable with or safe with, but I found that through the guidebook in this deck and the accompanying book, there definitely is a healing that's occurring for me as far as not needing to freak out every time I come in contact with one. So that's a good thing, right? This is the box that the deck comes in, published by Blue Angel. As always, I love the royal blue color, almost like an indigo, and then inside it's the straight up royal blue. And there's a little bit of purple on the outside too. It's more of a purpley blue than it's showing up on camera. The artwork in this deck, I'm going to be really upfront and honest with you guys, it's not my favorite. It's not, if this wasn't an Alana deck, I wouldn't have bought it. That being said, it's very easy for me to get over the artwork because I can bring the crystal out that's coordinated with the card and focus on working with that as opposed to the artwork on the card. And I will show you that in a moment so you can see that. The guidebook is extensive, as always with Alana. It's 234 pages. And it is intensive. There is a basic meaning in a paragraph, and then there's pages of meaning, and then there is the healing process, which you're encouraged to do. And I highly recommend with Alana's decks that you try the healing processes. They're very effective, believe it or not. Let me just show you. Here's Ascended Master Lady Nada and Rhodochrosite, Sensitivity. And you can see that. Let's see. So we've got this whole section. Then we keep going. And then down here is where the healing process starts. And that goes another half a page. So you have a book with this. It's not just a guidebook. You've got a really effective book. And you do not need to read the Crystal Master books that accompany this, that can accompany this deck unless you want to. It's standalone. This guidebook is standalone for sure. If you are interested, Crystal Angels 444, Crystal Masters 333, and Crystal Goddesses 888 you can use in conjunction with this. So you will see that there are 3 sections. They call them suites in this deck, and the 444 are all lined in pink, and these are the angels. The Ascended Masters are in blue, and this is the Crystal Masters 333 suite. You can see that's a little thicker than the angels. And then finally you step into the Goddess suite, and this is the Crystal Goddesses 888 suite, and you can see that this is lined in this really royal, kind of like an opulent maroon color. And you will see that you have the name. So here we have Goddess Tara and Tibetan Quartz. We have a title for the card, Her Eye Ever Open, and then underneath is the suite, so that you can cross-reference with the book very easily, I would imagine. That's why I'm imagining that's down there. So let me show you some of the images. I'll show you from the Goddess suite. So in the center of the mandala is the stone or crystal, and then the facets of it are expanding outward from it. So this is something that you could sit with and meditate with to open up to the consciousness. And if you don't have the stone or crystal, so for instance, if you don't have dendritic agate at home, you can use this mandala as a way of connecting with that deva of the dendritic agate as a whole. So the way that I approach stones, and I think Alana approaches it similarly, is that there is an almost like an overseer of the stone or crystal tribe itself, which would be your deva of spirit. So there would be one kind of primary energetic being of, I'll use dendritic agate as an example, and then each piece of dendritic agate spreading out from that core energy also has its own kind of blueprint in DNA. So you're really speaking with multiple voices when you're interacting with stone people and crystal people. And many of you do know that I align with the experience of them being their own beings, very much alive, very much teachers with much to share with us, and healers as well. So in my understanding is that Alana approaches it very similarly. And so you will find in the guidebook that you are speaking with the deva of dendritic agate, and also with the unique energy of the agate that you might have in person present as well. If not, through the mandala, you are connecting with the deva of dendritic agate for your card draw. I hope that makes sense for you guys. So here's another. So this is Sekhmet and Fire Agate, Passion of the Lion Heart. Sarasvati and Ammonite, From Word to World. So some of you are really going to love the mandalas. Again, I'm not a huge fan of the artistic approach to it. It, again, feels very, almost very computerized image. And I like something a little more earthy when I'm working with the crystals. But it's very easy for me to kind of tap into, again, that deva and not so much the image on the mandala. However, if you deeply connect with the mandala image, then this is something that will be very effective for you to use in meditation. So, and I've seen a lot of people using this deck who will kind of have the image up on the altar so that they can really connect with the spirit of the stone or crystal. And I think that's really beautiful. So that's some of the crystal suite. here is the Ascended Master. Here's Serapis Bay and Clear Calcite. Karmic Grace is your keyword there. I'll show you a few more. So yes, what you are going to find here is Lady Nada and Rhodochrosite. There is a cross there. Again, it doesn't feel like too much for me as someone who identifies as a witch. It's something that I don't have to attach to, but it is there. So if that really, really triggers you, then this might not be a deck for you, or you might choose a different image to connect with Lady Nada for. And I'll show you one more from this suite. And then we get down to the angels, which is really the first suite you're going to step into if you're using the deck, excuse me, chronologically. This is Amidiel and Blue Obsidian. Revelation is your keyword. So you can see that you've got quite a few cards in this deck. Each suite, and I'm not showing you every image, each suite is, this is the thinnest suite out of them all. So my first feelings of working with this deck, it's very powerful. I really, really love the guidebook. I love the healing processes. And I like to use it almost more as a, where am I energetically than a divination deck. It's much more about, spiritually what's coming up, what energies are here to guide me and assist me through this process, and how can I be more present in my experience and stop checking out. So I found it's really helpful for healing work. And I do feel that this deck will work with other clients. It won't just be a personal deck like Duality is for me right now. This one really feels like it's going to work very well with others. I think because you do have this multi-dimensional approach with the Crystal Deva and the angel, ascended master, or goddess associated with it, I think it's very easily accessible for clients who really have no experience with mythology or spirituality, or who have had perhaps really damaging experiences in their religion, or are coming from a religious experience that's very dogmatic. I think this deck will be one that is easier for them to work with and not associate it with the devil or as something evil. So I think it's a very accessible deck, and it's one that I am really enjoying working with. Again, very much related to the spiritual path for me, as opposed to the divination aspect that I might also really work with the tarot deck for. Do I love this deck as much as the Kuan Yin deck, or the Isis deck, or the Wild Kuan Yin deck, or the Sacred Rebels deck? Not yet. But I find that I always come back to Alana's Oracle decks, and that I have really, really powerful experiences with them. So I'm definitely enjoying this deck. The guidebook is a treasure. It's really one you can sink your teeth into if you're willing to do journaling with the guidebook. So not a quick pull and one sentence explanation, but really sitting down and doing some work with it. It's very effective in my experience. So that is my experience with the Crystal Mandala deck so far by Alana Fairchild. I should tell you who did the artwork. There's 54 cards. The artwork is by Jane Marin. And it's really assisting you. It says it's to empower you to channel the divine healing power of heaven and earth. So it's that marriage, similar to the Duality deck too, taking the opposites, merging them together. So I'm going to do a separate video for my unboxing, since I've talked for over half an hour right now. But I just wanted to share my thoughts and reveals of those two new decks for me in my collection and how I'm working with them. Each powerful in their own way with a very unique voice. So I'm really enjoying them. Alright, so I will see you in this video in just a few moments, guys. Much love, many blessings. Bye.